The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Focus on Seniors. I got the wrong title again. Helping Seniors. Helping Seniors, the radio arm of Helping Seniors of Brevard County. You know, just like everybody else, folks, when you get flustered, when you know people aren't working and doing things the way they should, it's easy to get off track and not really think about what you should be thinking about. And that's really part of what we talk about on this radio show. The radio show is designed to inform, to educate, and help connect seniors with resources and people that care for seniors. In doing that, Kay Kaiser, our information specialist, me, and other members of the board of directors encounter so many different problems that seniors and those that care for seniors encounter in just trying to live a decent life. So now, as we start our show today, I just going to ask of you to maybe if your beanbox is not as good as it should be, get a pencil and paper, because you might want to write some of the phone numbers down or make some notes on what Kay and I are going to talk about today, because we've got some things to bring to you that I think it might be eye-opening. The phone number for Kay is 473-7770. That's 321-473-7770. Our website is helpingseniors.brevard.org. helpingseniors.brevard.org. People, organizations, businesses, corporations help us get this information to you. Some of the sponsors for our show include Kindred In-Kind Hospital, and that includes now the former Gentiva in-home healthcare system because Kindred now owns them. The Eye Institute, Dr. Sheldon, who you've often associated with Solid Bite Dental Implants, and they have now a whole dental practice consortium type thing taking care of teeth from all kinds, from cracked teeth to fixing teeth to dental work, general dental work, periodontal work, dental implant work, you name it. They can do it all. Bill Johnson, elder law attorney, WMEL AM 1060, Wusthof Hospital System, Levin Home Care, Atlantic Shores Rehabilitation, Ebony News Today, and Wendy Handy from the Dale Sorensen Real Estate. And I've got a slew of sponsors I'll mention as we come back from the break, because you need to know who thinks seniors are important. Our sponsors think seniors are important, so they sponsor this radio show. But, you know, one of the things that we get phone calls from people, and I listened to one of the phone calls that came in this morning, and it was archived on my computer. I called Kay to ask her what the lady really wanted. Sometimes the sound on my computer, it gets turned down, and I see on our screen now we got a lady named Libby Kahn, and she's waiting on the phone. In just a minute, Libby, we'll bring you on, but I want to talk about this phone call that Kay had this morning, because it sort of ties in with what Libby's going to talk about on the show today. Kay, tell people about the 89-year-old lady that called you about transportation.
Right.
And what else involved after the transportation call?
Okay, well, initially she called in because she needed to get to her medical doctor to get her hearing aid batteries replaced. So she's really afraid, because if she didn't make that happen relatively soon, she was going to lose her other battery.
That's it. You only had one battery left.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So she had called a nonprofit agency and was a little concerned because she had not received a call back. And yet she needed, and I told her, I said, well, with any of these different services that provide transportation, it's very important that you plan ahead. You just can't call up the day before and expect them to pick you up the following day. Things have to be scheduled out. So after talking to her, I was asking her, the typical questions that I say, now, let me ask you a question. You're you're a widow, right? Are you on a limited income? Well, yes, I am. And I said, can you give me roughly about how much that income is a month? And she said, I think I'm getting about $1,400. I said, all right. Now let's talk a little bit further. When you were married, was your husband in the service? And she said, yes, he was. He was in World War II. And I said, he served 90 days in the service, and at least one of those days in the time of war? She said, yes. And I said, before you do anything else, I want you to take down this number. So I told her
633-2012.
You got it, the VA administration.
Right.
So what we're talking about, Joe, is the fact that had I not, here's another typical lady calling who's a widow, living on a very limited income, who had absolutely no idea that she may have an alternative called the VA Aid and Attendance Program to help her out financially. So, this is something that we do, I do anyway, with when I take the calls. They may call for one thing, but it always leads to another.
Well, it amounts to having a conversation. And,
absolutely.
Without a conversation, you don't really get past the starting line too often. And that's the other part of the thing. And Libby, as you listen to hear what Kay and I are talking about, think about it in relation to the things you discovered with the nursing homes and assisted living facilities.
Yes.
But one of the biggest things, folks, that we're having a problem with, and I've had it myself for roughly 2 years, it deals with what is called the Florida Elder Line. I have been so frustrated because I can't get through on the Elder Helpline. Yet what I do then is I call somebody that's very senior in Tallahassee, tell them the problem, and they have repeatedly told me, said, Joe, if you have this problem and the people that are calling you for help can't get return calls from agencies that get federal and state dollars, have them call us. So here's what I did today. I told Kay I was going to bring a phone number with me.
Yep.
When I left my house, I called Tallahassee, and the person in Tallahassee switched me to the darn Elder Helpline. So the whole trip up here to the radio station, 25 minutes, I'm getting this recording. It says, if you need help, stay on the line, or you can go to the internet, or you can leave a message.
Or the volume of calls.
The number of calls. We can answer your call right away. I know, folks, you get that same response when you call.
Yes.
We have had so many people call us and say, we cannot get local agencies to return our call. Now, I'm not going to mention local agencies' names on the phone. But I'm going to...
Three today, three alone today.
Three
alone.
today?
Calls
okay.
coming.
That makes it important, folks, for you. If you are calling agencies for help and not getting them to call you back, I ask that you call Kay at 473-7770, and she will have a phone number that when you call that number, you will get a live person in Tallahassee that will listen to your story because it all is connected with the waiting list, Medicaid services, getting people in line to get the help they need instead of delay, right. Because delay causes so much frustration. And that's one of the things that the federal government, under the Affordable Health Care Act, folks, has put $157 million into a new series of programs that are designed to create awareness, connect people to services,
right.
and do alignment of the services themselves so they can better respond and get this to the social as well as the medical needs of people, because the government finally has realized that failure to answer the phones, to get back to people, to make them feel like they're people instead of a recording system,
right.
causes a social problem that affects their medical condition, which in turn causes our medical costs to go up. It's and we're looking into something right now that, but it's ironic, folks, that when we found out about this, the person that told me about it said, Joe, this is what Helping Seniors has been doing for 5 years. our mission statement, and you can read it right on helpingseniors@brevard.org, is to make people aware, to educate,
right,
and connect people with services. And the government is willing to spend $157 million, folks, with 44 projects around the United States to do what we've been doing, and our budget is less than $150,000.
I know, go figure.
Yeah.
The people get so frustrated when they call me, Joe, because they can't get through. And many times, I'm sure the majority of them just plain give up. They just plain give up.
Okay, let's bring Libby on.
Yes.
Because I don't know if Libby will... if she will be able to convey some of the frustration she's experienced in the last 8 months to our listeners. But do you think you can do that, Libby?
I'm sure I can. Hi to you, Joe and Kay.
Thank you for calling, Libby. And if I may say one thing
Kay,
before we get Libby really telling her story here. Libby had called me, actually, I believe almost more than a year ago. We had our first conversation. Maybe it was last March. And I know at the time, Libby, you told me you were a certified hospice volunteer. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so you've been in the healthcare system, but you went on to tell me that you've been experiencing quite a few dramatic observations, if I can put it in that context. So if you could, maybe you can bring our listening audience up to what you've discovered.
But tell our listeners, Kay, or Libby, why you got involved in what you're going to talk about. Can you do that first?
I sure can. I first got involved with helping people in nursing homes, using my music to bring joy and happiness to the people that were specifically in hospice care, but many of them were also in the dementia unit. And this is what opened the door for me to go in and meet somebody who I found quite possibly had been misdiagnosed, quite possibly was in the most restrictive environments where all the years that I had taught school, we were always looking for the least restrictive environment. And here is a woman at 57 years of age that was in an Alzheimer's unit, in a lockdown unit. And after I played music and spent time with her, my teaching skills and my background really helped cement the idea in my mind that a more appropriate placement. So, and that began the adventure of trying to figure it out. And when you were talking about being on the phone and waiting for organizations to answer the phone, and then you leave a message,
right,
and then you wait days and days and days, or they never return your call. This is not just perhaps in the Brevard or Florida area, but I've been up here in Virginia this summer, and this was a huge stumbling block up here. I am blessed that I don't have to get up and go to work, that I had time to be on hold, and I had time to put energy into this. But this is, if I would tell you hundreds of hours of trying to network with people and get information about what kind of services and what kind of programs might be more appropriate, and then how to orchestrate those programs and navigate those systems. And eventually, I was able to actually get in contact with specific people. And then after those specific people got to know me, then I was in a much better position of getting my phone calls or emails answered.
So in other words, you didn't give up. You were persistent. But Libby, let's backtrack here a little bit. I mean, originally you're in on a Brevardian county resident, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you just happen to be in Virginia because that's where your friend is right now. But
yes,
you were telling me not only the fact that you've had some situations with her sister, but it pertains to how to put it into a context of guardianship.
Well,
what?
I wasn't sure what her sister had. No one would share with me what she was acting like. She had all the power and all the ability to make all the calls. Mm-hmm. But I've come to find out she had a a 10-year-old durable power of attorney that wasn't even made up through an attorney. It's just a form that they pulled off the internet and filled out 10 years ago in New Jersey. So, and when I started working with the court system to try to get a judge to listen to what I thought was really a horrible situation of someone being placed, my friend's only 57, so I felt as though she has a lifetime of more appropriate placement at a lockdown Alzheimer's unit with people that are really sick and very, very old. So I found out through, the court system what the sister actually had. Now, the sister is now trying to apply to get guardian and conservatorship of her sister, and this is ongoing. I don't know where this is going to go. But what I found out was that once a person signs their power of attorney, which indicates that they still have cognition, once they do that and then something happens, like they are on a lot of medication and they can't really advocate for themselves, or they have had a brain trauma, or they've had a stroke, then this person that has the power of attorney starts making all these calls. Now, they're supposed to be making the calls based on what the person would have wanted if they could advocate for themselves. Mm-hmm. But some people take terrible advantage of this situation, and I don't know if it's power or what it is. Some people have suggested there's more to the story that I don't even know about, which is maybe true. But they can actually turn people away from ever visiting my friend, which they did. They turned me away. They turned so many other people away that tried to go and visit her, and not allowed her to have her mail, not allowed her to have phone calls, not allowed her to have any presents, nothing that would bring quality to her life, just leaving her in total isolation.
Yeah, Libby, let me interrupt some here. You are finding out firsthand what we have been talking about for a number of years about the importance of going to the right kind of attorney to get documents prepared to fit the specific situation. Exactly. And just 3 weeks ago, I did a radio show with Bill Johnson on the exact same thing you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And in fact, his Medicaid planning seminar thing was so darn good that I asked him to write a 2-column plus article for our newsletter, which appears in the new February issue, Just on the Street. And on the 4th of February, we're going to do a 2-part television show on Medicaid planning, Part 1 and Part 2, because it's so important that people understand when you get documents like you're talking about, Libby, the power of attorney, the durable power of attorney, and I personally think that's one of the best documents you got going, if you get the person's name on there that you can trust. And that's the key. Yeah. And you found that that while intentions were good initially, the situation changes. And sad to say, Libby, the thing that changes that situation most often is the amount of money that the person has in the bank. And this affects family members more often than it does somebody outside the family. And that's the hardest thing to say. See, you have uncovered some of the nastier parts of placing of people in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. You agree?
I haven't, and I'd like to make 2 points, one of which is that I've been listening to your shows with Bill Johnson. They have been excellent, and I have learned a lot by listening and going back and listening to the archives with that. And the second thing that I wanted to make a point is that the paperwork that is necessary. Some people give people their power of attorney, and that sounds good, but if the person who is in need doesn't die in a relatively short period of time and they become a burden, then that power of attorney, that person that you've given that power of attorney to may not have been a good person to give the long-term power of attorney to.
You're right.
And now I believe the courts are doing some professional guardianship placement and I understand that There's a class at the local college on professional guardianship that's coming up the end of February, which I've signed up for. And I believe that we need legislation that can address this issue, because there are so many people that are going to be in this position, all the baby boomers that are heading toward their twilight years, and our parents who are in their twilight years that need to have protection. And some people only have one family member, and they give power of attorney, but maybe that's not the right person for the long term, because maybe they would be good for helping, maybe for a year, but when it drags on 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, that person may stop caring about your quality of life, is what I'm saying.
You're right. You're right.
There needs to be oversight.
Right.
Libby, we're almost out of a break. We're going to run out, but before we do that, just one quick thing, and I'm going to sort of ask you a leading question. In all of your research, what is probably the one most single important thing you found out about what people should be prepared to do, or what kind of thing should they put in place? Am I making sense to ask you a leading question?
No, but that's the same thing that Bill Johnson was talking about when he was talking about the paperwork that needs to be in order.
Right.
And discussion. People need to be able to talk about it. What are your long-term plans? What if?
Absolutely.
Some people really don't want to talk about what if.
You're right.
But people need to talk about what if and do some role-playing and some problem-solving and have some ideas bouncing around within their family and in their community of friends.
Okay. Libby, we're just about up to break. I want to thank you for calling in today, because you have conveyed to our listeners some first-hand experience that you've learned the hard way. When you get back to Melbourne, give Kay a call, and we'll put you on one of our TV shows. Will you do that?
Okay. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Libby.
Bye-bye.
Stay warm up there.
Hey.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, folks.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye, Libby. Folks, we're going to take a quick break now. That's 5 seconds. Stay with us. We've got a bunch of things to talk about after the break and something you'll want to hear about. Stay with us.
AM 1060 WMEL.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Helping Seniors, the radio arm of HelpingSeniorsOfBrevard.org. That's our website, HelpingSeniorsOfBrevard.org. Our phone number for Kay at the office is 321-473-7770. Our sponsors, that are media underwriters, that all of them do a darn good job of helping seniors. Will include on the second part of the show the Ear Care Riverview Senior Resort. It's the new facility that's opened up down in Palm Bay.
Getting ready to.
And where?
They're getting ready to.
Getting ready to open up, okay. And Handy Pro of the Space Coast. It's a handyman service, and we get a lot of calls from seniors about handyman services. So we do that.
Home modifications for seniors.
Oh, okay, like grab bars, higher toilets.
Primarily anything that's going to make a senior home more safe.
Okay, that's good. Other sponsors include Senior Scene Magazine, Hometown News, Spotlight Magazine, Seniors Helping Seniors, which is a home care service. They come in and, they do things like run a vacuum cleaner, straighten up your house, fix your breakfast, get you ready for the day, take you shopping, do shopping for you, roughly for a cost of $35 for a 2-hour block of service. And think about it, folks. Those of you that are homebound, that you spend the cash. Let's say you spend $70 a week, $280 a month to have somebody come in twice a week, 4 weeks a month, maybe take you to the doctor, take you shopping, help clean up the house. Yep. It makes things so much easier for you. So think about it.
Can I mention something about that, too?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the callers this morning called me back for another issue that they needed and wanted to thank me so much for referring them to them. She said I couldn't be more delighted.
To Helping Seniors?
To Seniors Helping Seniors.
Seniors Helping Seniors. The other sponsors include the Fountains of Melbourne, Beth Courtney of the Braswell Courtney Financial Advisor Team, Barbara McIntyre of a home equity who is a home equity loan specialist. And folks, we did a show on that here recently, and doggone, Monday I was on the show with Now, let me finish.
Jean Newell.
Well, okay, yeah, but let me get to a sponsor.
Okay.
Canadian Meds in Melbourne, Wiedemann Malik Attorneys, and Vitas Hospice. And now let's go back to what I was just talking about. And Kay, help me. It's Jean Newell
She has a show on WMEL on Monday at 1 p.m., which you were a guest.
I was a guest this past Monday.
And one of the things, I think she calls it Hometown Solutions, if I'm not mistaken, but you were very impressed with an attorney, Jonathan Lack, who appeared on the show.
Yeah. The reason I was impressed with the guy, folks, is that right now we have 3 callers to Helping Seniors over the last 6 months that were having problems because they had lost their jobs, did not have the money to pay their mortgage, and I like to think that I know a lot, but there's a lot I don't know, and I find that out too. And this is a case on Gene's show that I found out something that we need to pass on to, and Kay will talk about it too. But here was what we found out. Mr. Lack, the attorney, said, if a person loses their job, not fired, say the company downsizes or the job just goes away, whether they're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50, 60, 70, makes no difference. The fact is that they lost their job and not being fired. The federal government has a program, folks, that will pay that monthly mortgage payment for you for up to a year and a total of $18,000 to keep you from losing your home. And that money is given to you by the government to help you get out of a hole. Now, how many people know that?
It's called the Florida Hardest Hit Program.
Yeah. How long have you known about it, Kay?
I've known about it for quite some time, but I was always under the assumption that if someone really wanted to apply, they'd have to go on the internet to go that. But then when we talked about prior to going on the air today that you said Jonathan Lack kind of specializes in that and can help breeze through the system much quicker and at a very nominal fee, correct?
Exactly right. How about telling people how to get it? This is why I told you to get a pencil and paper out, folks, because maybe it's not you that needs this help, but you might have a friend, a family member, or a neighbor that needs help. Tell them, Kay.
Area code 321-953-5115 is how you can reach Jonathan Lack. Again, that number is 321-953-5115. And if you didn't happen to get it, I will put this card up in front of me with one of my resources here. So you can always call Helping Seniors of Brevard at our number, 473-7770.
And let's go back on what I mentioned on the first part of the show before we brought Libby Kahn on. And by the way, Libby Kahn is a well-informed people about the healthcare system. There's so much that she has learned in the last year working in Virginia, and she sent us a blow-by-blow description. That's an excellent paper. And we were going to ask Libby to do a sort of sanitized, cleaned up, shortened version of her article for our newsletter, because it shows what the average citizen can find out if they take the time to find it out. And now, having said that, we also know that the average citizen can get frustrated in trying to deal with this elder care system. I'm very familiar with it, and I go out of my mind at times trying to find out answers to a question, but most importantly, just getting somebody to answer the darn telephone.
Absolutely. And here's one thing that I want to bring to our listening audience attention. If you have a loved one or friend in a skilled nursing or memory center or even assisted living, be sure to check on them on off times. In other words, don't make a habit of seeing that person at 1 p.m. every afternoon or every Wednesday afternoon. Mix it up a little bit. This is what Libby did in talking with her. And she found out that her friend was totally being cut off. And, if she had not come in at various different types of hours, because, quite frankly, folks, sometimes the CNAs and the nurses even there, will expect you, if you create that habitual timing and day that you're coming, go and look in maybe at, hey, midnight, 1 o'clock sometime if you're up that late, and see what maybe goes on, at not during regular, hours. So,
well, I found out through my experience of working with the senior care system for the last 27 years that you just can't leave it up to the nursing home or the assisted living facility or whatever to do what really needs to be done. I can think of a case where we had a man in one of the nursing an assisted living facility, and there was a certain food that the man didn't like, and this facility happened to serve it was a vegetable, and they happened to serve an excessive amount of the darn stuff. As a result, the guy never ate these meals, and the family members called me. I actually called the administrator of the nursing home, and the guy said to me, I knew him, he said, Joe, this has never been conveyed to me. I didn't know this. He says, I can solve the problem. So again, points out the fact, folks, that if a problem exists, you got to get to the right person to solve the problem. Now, exactly. You can call certain agencies in Brevard County and tell them a problem. But if they don't call you back, you don't know if that problem has been resolved. And think about the number of times that you may have tried to get through to these people to find out if they have, in fact, solved your problem.
Right.
It's hard to get through them. This is why I said, when the show started, if you don't get an answer to a question or an agency in Brevard County that receives federal or state dollars, and there are a number of them, if you call them for service and they don't call you back, please call Kay, and she will give you a phone number that you can make a phone call to that I guarantee you will ensure that your problem is acted on. That is a guarantee that I can make to you, because the person in Tallahassee has made that promise to me by saying this, Joe, have the people call me, and we will give you the name and the phone number of the person to call so you can make your case known to somebody that has a chance to help us solve the problem. We can talk about awareness, connectivity, right, and helping people all we want, Kay, but unless the people get the help that they ask for, within reason.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. We have people that call us that, darn it, they shouldn't call us in the first place. It should solve their own problem.
Well, and it's like I can't make the calls for them. There are times where I'll call you, Joe, and I'll say, hey, I need your input on this particular situation. How would you suggest we try to kind of work this system to help this person? And I know a perfect example was the veteran who had to climb up and into his mobile home. And,
on his rear end.
On his rear end. So,
right,
and wasn't getting anywhere fast. So, there are situations like that where you got to jump in. But for the most part, I said this before. I said, you can lead the horse in the water, but you can't make it drink.
That's true. That's true. But, folks, if you got that pencil and paper, I want you, ask you, beg you to write down helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Go to the website and take a look at a basic plan for our organization that was developed 5 years ago, and we're still following today, and it's sort of a model for what the federal government is going to spend $157 million on. And take a look at a plan that our organization, with the assistance of about 40 volunteers, worked to develop a survey which we turned into a plan called the Need for an Aging Plan for Brevard County, and have given that to the commissioners. Like a lot of things, folks, it can be a dream, but so often it can be a pipe dream unless we bring forces to make the pipe become full of water. And in this case, it's going to cause some problems because the commissioners simply, so to speak, don't have enough money, and somebody's got the mixed up idea that we can't increase taxes. I happen to not agree with that because I think that we all need to pay our fair share of whatever it is to, one of the things, have good roads in Brevard County.
Yeah.
I had a man ask me the other day, he said, Joe, do you think we should have a gas tax or a tax on, like the school board tax that's bringing in $32 million to supposedly help our schools? I'm waiting to see the answer on that one. And I said, like the school board tax. And he said, think about this. He said, think about all the people that do use the roads and the other people that are shut-ins that don't use the roads. He said, wouldn't it be more fair to add the tax to as a gas tax and so let the people that use the roads the most bear the brunt of paying for the fixing?
Right.
Regardless of how we do it, Kate.
I think we need to look at what Ohio did.
Yeah, well, yeah, what did they do in Ohio?
The citizens got involved, and they made sure that the seniors are going to be taken care of.
Yeah, well, and what they did was the people themselves said, hey, we need to have a tax so everybody help become part of the solution and not just the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to mention, too, after I didn't get an opportunity just to bring to the attention, but when Libby and I were speaking, too, prior to today, she mentioned to me there's a great Facebook page, and it's called Boomers Against Elder Abuse. So if you go and you Google Boomers Against Elder Abuse, Facebook, okay?
Yep.
You're not only going to see Libby's comments posted on there, by the way.
I saw that.
But there also are other people who are trying to get the attention to the public that boomers are coming into this whole situation, too, relatively quickly. But they've got an actual half-hour TV program that exposed the difficulties and people that were having very difficulties with guardians and so forth and were being wiped out and all of this kind of going together. So going back to what Bill Johnson had talked to that provoked Libby Kahn from calling originally, this all fits together. So if you want to learn even more information, I suggest you'd look that up. That's a great one.
Well, you know, as a people, we tend to complain a lot. And we don't think about that we need to really be part of the solution, not just a continuing part of the problem. It's just like our presidential election coming up. The average person, you know, what can we do except go out and vote for whoever these idiots put on a ballot for us to vote for?
Right.
And then, you know, over the last several years, it's been trying to pick the lesser of two evils.
Yeah,
that's true. There haven't been too many statespeople. You know, I got to be politically correct to say, not say statesman, but we'll say statespeople.
There you go.
Because I'm afraid of who we might have as talk about gender. I kind of like with Bill Riley and that comedian Dennis. What is this? That guy?
Golly, I know who you mean. I can't think of his last name.
The guy has it's on the O'Reilly show. Dennis Miller.
Oh, there you go.
Dennis Miller.
Yeah.
You know, he does his Shalom Aleichem thing, and it drives me nuts because, but actually, some of these comedians, some of these people are pretty darn well informed, they got some pretty good ideas.
They've got some good writers too.
They got good writers that help. You're right. That's where it comes in, Kate.
Right.
But having good writers leads us right back to people doing their own research on the Internet, like going to Boomers Against Abuse and finding out. I did this last night, and I looked and I found that there's so many associated websites that provide good information.
Right.
It's just like people. I had a guy tell me that he was in Louisville, Kentucky. He knew me. He Googled our site. And he called me up and he said, Joe, that website of yours is fantastic. He said, it's easy to navigate. It's got great information.
Everything we do in our outreach media is archived on there. So if you're looking for a particular subject, if you want to, you can go to the media tab, pull down the radio, the newsletter, the TV, or again, in the search tab on the top right, type in a subject, you're going to be able to see a slew of different,
Well, Libby
shows.
Kahn pointed out, she said she watched 3 Bill Johnson shows on planning.
Exactly.
And it helped her as she did the investigation in Virginia.
Right.
You see, under Florida law, folks, there are some peculiar, pertinent things that apply to documents and guardianships and powers of attorney and wills that are different from the other states. So those of you that come to Florida from another state that don't go to an attorney and get this stuff updated, in the event that you die, your survivor could have one heck of a time accessing your finances.
Right.
So, make it easier on your survivors and those that you love by making certain that the documents you have are correct and they fit the situation that you're going to put your survivors in.
Absolutely.
And, we could talk about this almost every week on the show, and still we will get calls. Just like Kay mentioned, the fact that we get calls from senior women that are widows that husbands served either in Korea or World War II.
Right.
They're living, folks, I have talked to ladies that are 89, 90, and 91, and 92. They're living on $700 and $800 and food stamps.
Right.
When they're actually darn near automatically eligible for the Veterans Aid and Attendance Program, and it's one of the easiest things to get. Now, they're making some changes in that program, too, on the look-back period. So it's important, again, to get the right kind of attorney, not just every attorney. And Mr. Lack said that when we talked on the Monday show, he said, I'm a good attorney. He says, I understand all this stuff. But he says, I don't have the same knowledge that an attorney like Bill Johnson has about elder planning. He said, that's why it's so important for people to go to the right kind of attorneys.
And that's why we have good resources. And,
right.
And one thing I want to bring up, this is a little bit off the subject from what we're referring to on today's program, but, even in Florida, we get some cold snaps. And we're due to have a couple more here before our winter is over. And I want to just reach out a little bit to our listening audience that if you've got a loved one or senior that you know, a friend, check on them. Make sure they've got plenty of blankets. Make sure they're warm enough. And by all means, check their space heater if they're relying on those space heaters, because we've already had fires reported, in Florida from space heaters.
Space heaters is going to be very, very dangerous.
Yep. So I just wanted to put that plea out to you, because we still have a few days that we're going to be in the 50s here coming up.
Yep.
But check on your senior loved ones. Check on your senior friends. Let them know your care, and also give them a phone call more often. Give them a phone call, because many of the callers that I get are just plain lonely. And you would make all the difference in their day if they can just say, somebody called to say hello.
Okay. We're grinding down to it's time to close out the show, folks. I want to thank Kay for what she has brought to the show today, and I especially want to thank Libby Kahn for calling in from Virginia, taking her time. And Libby is extremely well informed. Folks, you can be just as well informed as Libby is if you take a little time to do it. The information is there. In fact, if you look at our website, you can find out a lot about what Libby talked about. So having said that, I want to thank you for listening. Kay will be, I'll do the show next week. In February, Kay will do one of the radio shows while I do television taping on a Thursday and Friday. So there's just a lot of good things happening. Stay with us. Read our newsletter in the Senior Scene magazine, and the new issue is on the street now. Anything else, Kay?
I think that's it. And everyone take care and call 473-7770. We're here to help you.
Thank you very much. See you next week. Bye-bye.